You know what? When it comes to something like fan service, which this video is going to be more so in the positive, I guess, of, which if you can't tell the dang background game, hopefully it's Senran Kagura, and, you know, most likely that's going to demonetize the video, but still, I don't really care. But when it comes down to it, though, we can talk about fan service all day till the cows come home, essentially. Whether it's actually good, whether it's actually bad, the positives of it, what it can bring, and the other types of, like, fan service that it kind of goes into the realms of, like anything lolly related or anything else of the sort. And also we can talk about the negative sides of things of the sort as well, which it's just a lot that goes into this dang topic, just to keep it very much a stack. And really looking at this in a hard ass scale, it's like when you really look at it from a big overall open-minded perspective, you can definitely see that people do overblow this shit out into a crazy proportion, but then there's also some valid parts of it where it's like I can understand why people feel this way, or why this feels the way that people want to go with it now, and all that kind of stuff. So I want to kind of address a bit of that, and also what I would put my 2 cents into it. Now granted, you might not necessarily agree, or you might do agree, I don't necessarily know, but mainly I will leave this in the hands of basically anybody that's watching this video, and the comment section is just free reign to say what you want to say regarding this one, because there is definitely multiple sides of the story, and it doesn't make it like a most black and white picture. It's very, very gray. Let me start off by saying that fan service, when it comes to anime and games and things and sort of like that, I think it's valid to keep those things in there, right? Mainly because we have spent the last 4 to 5 years essentially looking at things that we didn't want, ugly ass characters, and basically being force fed of how to be human and all that other stuff. Needless to say, most people are tired of it, and most people don't want to necessarily see it. And if we have to look at a fine character just to get away from the stuff we've been seeing for the last 4 years to 5 years, then you know what? That's pretty dang valid. At this point, it just is, right? Because I refuse to sit here also as well to just be seeing all the characters I come to know and to love when in the past to just turn into ugly versions of themselves. And hell, you can even argue that it doesn't have to be an overly beautiful looking character to get people over, because that's not what people are really looking for a lot of times at some points. Because you got something like Squirrel Girl from Marvel Rivals recently. Personally, I don't think she looks all that great, but I see people absolutely love the crap out of her design. So it doesn't necessarily go to show you that you don't need a overly sexy design, just a decent change of pace and design of a character to allow them to breathe, to be the way they want to be and stuff. And I promise you, you will get people to care like you do. You don't need to dumb down everything because people hate their appearances in real life, and so they shove it into the game, and now that's why we got so many ugly ass characters and things of sort like that. You don't have to do that just to, you know, prove your point. You don't have to. That's not something that makes people care, right? We care when you actually put time and effort and passion into the game, to the characters, to whatever else it is that doesn't have to do with, you know, your typical diversity, your typical inclusion, your typical things and sort like that. Because no one cares about that shit. At the end of the day, we just want to have fun, see some good shit that's appealing to us. That's really what it is. And even more so on an anime side of the spectrum, we like it when we get to see people have free reign to do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's why anime was so damn popular and still is popular right now, because you have people making the shit that they wanted to make. Sure, yes, we do have dumbass credit card companies now trying to stop all that and, you know, try to hinder the growth of, you know, freedom of expression over in Japan, but at the very same time, you still got really good shows that still does challenge the medium, and it uses fan service. Why do you think I'm so happy that Fire Force is coming back? Mainly because I want to see Tamaki put people in check. That's really what I want to see. Much less I do want to see, you know, a certain fight when it comes to a dragon and a knight. But, you know, we'll get to that point when we get to that point. But still, nonetheless, I am very much excited for that, because Fire Force, honestly, is probably one of the more uniquer shows that has ever really came out. It is literally firefighters beating the shit out of fires. Why hasn't a concept like that existed before? But they done it so dang well, honestly. And people gave this show so much shit because of Tamaki for all the fan service reasons and stuff like that. And it's literally just like, bro, it's just how the show is. If you don't like it, don't watch the shit. And then at the very same time, if you're still so pissed off about it, that's just how this show and just how anime is. If it wasn't for fan service and just like how it wasn't for lollies, you wouldn't have a lot of the stuff in anime that you have now. Hell, lots of people in their whole ass careers and, you know, livelihoods been built off of lollies and off of fan service as well, and you wouldn't have what you have now if it wasn't for that. It's also the reason why I highly praise something like Interspecies Reviewer as well, because it is the only show in modern times I've seen truthfully challenge what can be shown and what can't be shown. Even on Japanese standards, they were just like, damn, we don't know if we can actually show this in Japan for real. And that's how much of the show it was challenging. Right? It was challenging that damn much because of how crazy that show actually had. You know, just a comedy show, even though it wasn't that deep of a show, it was just mainly there for just etchy purposes. But it still challenged the damn medium by just being like, damn, how far can we actually take this? Let's find out. And that's really what it went down when it comes down to that show. And it's like, I haven't really seen another show done that for a long time. So that plays a special place in my book of different shows that actually challenge the medium in some way and form. But with all the positive and all the challenges that, you know, can be done with fan service, regardless of the way it's being used and things like that, you'll still have people come through and just be aggravated over fan service, saying it shouldn't be a thing, over sexualization of female characters and women and stuff like that, and yada 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 when it comes down to, you know, all those type of points. Here's the whole ass thing when it comes down to it that I feel like a lot of people need to realize is that this isn't just a supply and demand situation. This is just a beginning of the humanity type of situation. Like, men and women kind of have always been there together. There has always been an appeal towards the female body, and you know, you do have the appeal towards the male body as well, but there has always been more so of the female body than it is anything else. Why do you think women basically kind of somewhat run the world a lot of the points of time that we have now? It's due to the fact that, you know, women are just more, you know, appealing. They're just more, you know, the side of the sex that people kind of care for more than a guy's side. Sure, guys do cool things too, and obviously there is a lot more power and stuff like that that we can look into just in history over that subject, but women definitely have their proper place of how they get their victories as well. Is why you also see so many damn OnlyFans women exist, and why they use their bodies for, you know, their own damn victories and things of sort like that. Like, it's kind of, people can very much easily be like, fan service sucks and it's ass, but then also don't look at that part of it either. And it's like, well, that's their choice. They're doing what they want with their bodies and such like that, and that's fine. But it's also like, it's worth pointing out that that does exist, and most people sometimes, you know, don't have a problem with it, and then other people do have a problem with it, and then, but at the same time, it's not really attacked as hard like anime and games does, which is a bit ridiculous though. But granted, to be fair, some of those girls definitely be doing, you know, what they do. They definitely do this stuff very well. Like, honestly, at this point, I think Tiny Asa honestly beats out Hedora Rose in my opinion, which is kind of crazy. But at the very same time, have you seen Tiny Asa shake ass? Have you seen her do it in a Frieren cosplay? Have you seen it in the Tatsumaki cosplay? It's kind of good, not gonna lie. But when it comes down to it though, that's just kind of how it is. It's just the fact that the female body is just more sexy and hotter to look at than really anything else, and it can be obviously used in a good way, and it can obviously be used in a negative way as well, and that just kind of been the nature of stuff, right? And so I want to look into the more negative side of stuff when it comes down to it, right? Because obviously I've seen also plenty of posts of people being like, this isn't good because it affects people in a negative way, more so like people of religious, you know, type of standards and mindsets of things like that. And as someone that also believes in something too, I do kind of somewhat agree in a very specific sense, right? And this is the type of sense I kind of feel about fan service and sexual things as well, which is, as long as it's not necessarily affecting someone negative, that's kind of like the only thing to me that kind of like matters, right? If it's like existing and it's like doing what it wants to do, then whatever. But if it's going to affect somebody in a negative way, then sure, there might be a problem here. But then at the same time, it's less on the media and medium that you're consuming, more so it's on the person that's actually doing the consuming of that content, right? It's the same thing for violence in video games, because you can easily play GTA, run over people in Vespucci Beach, and call it a damn day. But then you might have people that will interpret that as, maybe I need to do that in real life, do that, and then obviously that's more on a person because they're being impressionable than it is about, the media itself. Sure, you could say, well, the media wouldn't necessarily, cause that to happen if it didn't exist. But let's just be honest, humans are also gonna desire shit that, probably is immoral, probably is things that, people really shouldn't be desiring, but they're gonna do it anyway, and that's just kind of how it is, because that's kind of been with us for like the longest period of time, and it's unfortunate, but it's also kind of like, that's just kind of how we are. I'm pretty sure majority of people that's watching this video right now possibly has a really big sexual fantasy, or probably has some type of sexual fantasy just in general, that honestly, if given a chance, they probably would act out if they really just felt like there was no consequences, no strings attached, and anything like that. You probably would act out on it, and that's just kind of how it is. That's just, again, human desire being at its finest, right? But a lot of times people don't act out on it because, they do have those senses of morals and senses of things like that, right? And things that prevent them from being just a complete asshole, or things of sort like that, right? Because obviously you do get people that act out on it, and they obviously turn into very horrible people by, a lot of horrible things and horrible actions and stuff like that. So again, there is a lot to kind of look into this perspective, because even if somebody says, oh, well, all fan service needs to go away and die or something like that, well, what about characters that get sexualized in ways where it makes sense of a story? What about characters that just kind of, get put in those types of positions? Heck, if we're gonna be really honest with you, there is plenty of times where the theme of sex, or the theme of like, the action of it, has reasons as to why it exists within a specific medium. Even the Bible, if we're going to be absolutely honest, and let me make sure I say this perfectly clear without messing up anything, hopefully, but there is moments and times in the Bible where you have, I think there was like a story where some guy basically had this girl who was getting, clapped up at a brothel, and essentially still married that woman anyway, or was with that woman anyway. There is plenty of moments of like cheating in the Bible as well. There's also moments where we talked about reproduction and what it's meant to be used for, and things of the sort like that, and the seeds, and things like that. There's been plenty of moments where it's used in those sort of contexts, not for gratification, but to kind of teach people stuff. And it's like, well, so if we were to get rid of all mentionings of that, that would mean we would have to get rid of that in that sort of sense as well. Even though, again, it's a natural sort of thing that we kind of have. Maybe not in the ways of modern day, however we have it, but it still kind of exists in a point where it's like, well, people kind of do that, and it's just a natural human being thing to have and do. So, like, it's kind of impossible to get rid of, like, all mentions of that just anywhere in different pieces of literature, and I feel like it's super unfair to get rid of that, especially in ways where it's like it's trying to tell a story and it's used for a purpose and things of the sort like that. Yeah, you'll have gratification, but that's just kind of how also what it is. Again, it kind of goes back to the point of negativity of how you kind of view that type of thing and consume it, because if you end up starting this watch redo a healer and you see Flair getting assaulted, and if you go outside and start to assault a random woman, whose fault really is that going to be? It's gonna be mainly on you, because you acted out on something that you shouldn't have. And that's just kind of how it is. Same thing with what you're seeing on screen with Senran Kagura, if I do have Senran Kagura up on screen. Like, when it comes down to it, is it going to be the fault of the game that you decide to just cut up women's clothes in public? I'm pretty sure it's going to be the fault of you if you decided to do such a thing, honestly. So that's just kind of how it is. And then when it comes down to just looking at it from a whole perspective as well, another part of it is that people be like they want to get rid of it. And honestly, I'll keep it very much a stack. If you said, hey, I have a plan, or there's some type of way we can just get rid of everything of violence, everything of sexual nature, everything of just anything that's negative, then hey, I'll be down for the cause. I'll be down for it if we can all just be happy and no one ever really do anything negative and bad ever again. That sounds like a perfect time for me. But unfortunately, that's not how that's going to be ever, really, because you got people that also says, we should ban this type of stuff, but then have their own secret agenda. Hint hint, the last 4 or 5 years of what we've been going through within the gaming industry and in the entertainment industry and things of the sort like that. Like, people have their agenda about stuff, honestly. And if honestly we were to get rid of like a lot of the stuff that happens in the world, most likely you'll either A, get people very much pissed off about it because they don't like being told what to do, or B, you'll probably get killed off for it just because, it's like, again, it's just controlling people in a very specific way that people don't want to be controlled, and people may not like that truth that might get out there when it comes down to it. So there is also that. And I always find it funny how you have people getting pissed off at anime for lollies and, just the over big booba characters and things of the sort like that, and the different shows that exist, and people want to get so pissed off about that, especially within the West. But then you get people in the West that also has movies and actors that are underage and do these sort of weird things in these movies or be a part of these movies. Or you got music videos where women are just doing nothing but shaking ass all the doggone time. And just plenty of other ways and facets where, the West are equally guilty of that shit, and no one bats an eye at that in the West. But when it comes to literally everything else, everybody else want to basically be the problem. Essentially, it's just, again, the West trying to control things for absolutely no reason, when they should take a hard look in the mirror themselves, but they absolutely won't do that. And it's also equally crazy when you see people just be absolutely blinded to the fact that, they are like that, especially within the West, because now anytime you see a beautiful looking female character or a beautiful chick or whatever the hell you have, and they're basically just doing nothing, now it's all of a sudden the word, gooner being thrown around and bait being thrown around and all that type of stuff just being chucked around. You can't necessarily have one single thing that isn't that without somebody saying, all that other type of stuff. It's basically when the word simp kind of got thrown around like a lot of the time back then, when people were just like, oh, you like this woman? Simp. Even though they could be absolutely the most cleanest woman on the planet, give no one any issues, people like universally, and still, no, regardless, somehow you get called a simp for that, or gooner now, because that's just the new phrase of things. And that's just kind of how it is. It's just another variation of that type of thing that's happening now with another generation of people. That's really what this shit comes down to. But overall, what my whole point of this video is, essentially when it comes to fan service as a whole, is just the fact that fan service is going to be used in ways you're going to like. It's going to be used in ways you're not going to like. Ways that make sense and doesn't make sense. Good and bad. There's going to be plenty of moments where fan service just exists, and you're just going to have to deal with that type of stuff, right? And there's also, obviously, different other versions of fan service that has nothing to do with anything sexual at all. There's going to be moments where women are going to be used for sexual gratification in objects as well, right? In different shows and the different media and stuff like that whatsoever. And that just, whether you like it or not, a course of the world and how things is, right? That's just kind of how it is, and that's the hard truth that people don't really want to sit here and accept, honestly. That's just kind of how it is. Obviously, women are more than that, but at the very same time, there's always going to be that part of it where that just straight up exists, right? And there's obviously going to be, adult content that's going to be mainly more so for the women's side of things than it is for any other part of the spectrum. Sure, you might have that side now, but is it going to outright beat just straight up women entirely in the most regular way possible? I don't really think so or believe that. Fan service and things of the sort like that is only going to be bad by how you perceive it and how you kind of go about it, right? Because again, there's many different shows that exist out there that use it for a plot reason or a good reason, and there's obviously the fight back and really rebellion, and that's kind of what fan service is. against like things of ugly characters and things of sort like that. Does every video game needs a fine female character? No, you can have someone like a Score Girl situation where she looks decent, at least in my opinion. She looks decently fine, and you know, it's whatever. But at the very same time, after being force fed a lot of the uglification and a lot of the moral speaks and all that type of stuff, it doesn't surprise me that people want to go back to the old 90s like the ways and the early 2000s type ways where people just want to see fine bitches in games and just fine women in general. Like hell, I'm pretty sure there's a fair amount of people that would like to go outside and just straight up see a fine woman in a bikini just doing whatever the hell they're doing. I'm pretty sure that's just kind of how a lot of people also feel. Is we going to go back to those days? No. But at the very same time, you know, when that opportunity happened, you damn sure people are going to look and absolutely have ideas and fantasies about those sort of things, because why wouldn't they? That just kind of, again, how people are, how things is. It just depends on if you're going to act out on that in a very negative way, or is you just going to basically just, you know, be natural about it. Because remember, consent still is very much a thing that you absolutely need, especially in a real world context. So especially remember, of all things, that is a major thing. But yeah, it's just crazy again how people are when it comes down to this, because there's so many factors to this that people don't consider, and it's just baffling how people try to control this thing and try to be like, this needs to go away, when realistically the only people that need to go away from it is who is going to affect negatively, right? And that's kind of just how it is. And as we have seen with like celebrities, especially recently with this year, and how much of them got in trouble over this very same thing, mainly just because they acted out in a negative way, that basically kind of tells you also as well, you know, there's a lot of issues regarding just people themselves, and more so less on the, you know, fan service entertainment side of things as well, right? Just because you're all powerful and all rich and all that doesn't mean you can't, you know, just do whatever the hell you want to. You think of a fine ass cosplayer come my way and you think I'm not gonna grab some ass? Of course I'm gonna grab some ass. Of course I'm gonna grope some titty. But consent first. Obviously. That's like the again, most important thing. But anyway, that's essentially what I really want to say for this one. Again, let me know in the comments if you agree with the whole idea of, you know, the negative, you know, I guess consumption of fan service when it comes down to the person that's consuming it instead of the medium being blamed as a whole of it. Let me know if that's something that you'll agree with, or is I'm just out of left field being weird about it and all that type of stuff. Again, let me know, because this one is just a concept and a topic that honestly we can kind of go about for a few videos if we kind of look at it in different sorts of ways. But that's really what I want to say for this one. So again, hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification when you're out. Also follow me on socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's your boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.